Hello, today we're joined with Debra and Dave. How's it going, guys?
Very good.
Excellent. I was just grooving to the music.
Yeah,
I like that intro.
That's nice.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's got a nice little chill, relaxing Hawaiian vibe, so I can't complain.
Perfect. It gets you in the mood for travel.
Yeah,
Sets the
definitely.
tone right away.
Great. Well, I'm glad that you already brought that up. I think we were just talking about this before the episode started, but I think you have a trip planned right after
Yes,
the sort of confinement ends in Ontario. Do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yeah, we're really excited. You can talk because I'm talking.
All right, yeah, well, we're really excited. We're going to be going down the Rideau Canal
Nice.
here in Ontario
Yeah.
with a boat. We're doing a houseboat with our bubble, our family bubble, making it kind of a family trip.
My
Nice.
brother Jim and
Awesome.
Jan are coming, and my mom and dad
Okay.
are going down, and it's 7 days, and it's going to be amazing because we've been locked up for so long now. It's like woohoo, life after lockdown.
Nice. So you're going to be in a boat. Do you know how many locks you're going to go through the canal?
No, we haven't
I
really.
don't actually. We're going to be playing exactly the route and where we're going to stop and stuff actually later on tonight after we get off the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean-
we're heading south towards Kingston. We're
Okay.
starting up in Smith Falls and then working our way down.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, to your defense, you have a lot of time to plan that, so I'm not worried at all. That's great. Talking about Ontario, really quickly, do you guys want to share a little bit about where you grew up and what was your life, growing up as children and then teenagers?
Well, I was born in Alberta, so
Okay.
I was born actually in High River. My dad worked on the Bayou Ranch. I'm really proud of that because that's a historic site. He was a ranch hand.
Nice.
And then cowboys in my blood.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we moved back to Ontario. And
Okay.
Dave.
Yeah, and me, I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, so
Okay.
not too far outside of Toronto. I only have one sister, so one sibling. I'm the oldest of two siblings.
Okay.
Grew up there. Basically, travel really, wasn't even a really part of my life until after I met Deb, I would say. So
Yeah.
pretty much growing up in suburbia, that was my life growing up as a teenager. So and playing in bands because I was a musician as well. So.
Nice. And I definitely want to talk about it a little bit because I think it's an interesting side of your story. But you did bring it up. Like, how did you both meet?
Oh yeah, we met not far from where Dave grew up. Actually,
Yes.
we
Okay.
both went to Sheridan College for music theater. Or I went for music theater, and Dave
Okay.
went for marketing.
Okay.
And you worked at this awesome bar called Tequila Willie's at the
Yeah.
time. It was the happening place in Burlington. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Oh, it was amazing. But I remember, it was just an amazing job to have. It was so much fun. It was lots of partying, lots of great people. So, when you're 20 years old, it's like the place to be.
Yeah, and I would go there. My roommate Melissa, she worked there, and I went there one night to see a Blue Rodeo cover band. This is very Canadian now. And
Okay.
this is the 90s, so I have to set the tone
Yes.
because in the 90s people wore cowboy boots, and especially at a Blue Rodeo cover band.
Right.
So my roommate Melissa and I were dancing to some Blue Rodeo cover,
Mhm.
and we looked there. She looked down on the floor and saw Dave had the same boots as me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you guys have the same boots!" And Dave and I didn't know each other at the time, and we were like, "No way!" And we're like, "Let's dance!" And
Yeah.
that's how we met. And the typical, meet at a bar. It's the true romantic story of everyone's life.
Yeah, and I remember because that was a Friday night. And
Okay.
then I asked her out on a date on Sunday.
Mhm.
We went out on Sunday, and it was like we were so comfortable with each other. It was like we had known each other all of our lives.
Yeah.
So it just kind of went very quickly from there. I ended up moving in with her and her four other roommates in Oakville, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. And music really is in our blood because we went to a Stevie Ray Vaughan cover band on the Sunday night.
Yeah.
So it was all about bands for us. At the time.
Nice.
And
So
then we were
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I had 5 roommates. Like we were in a townhouse in Oakville, and Dave moved
Okay.
in. I'm like, "Hey, do you mind if my boyfriend moves in?" And they were like, "I don't care as long as we have more people to split the rent."
Yeah.
Cool. He's staying in your place. So the drums came in. We had a
Nice.
piano. Everyone was artsy,
Yeah.
singing and
It's
dancing.
great. It's a great environment.
It was a good
Wow.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yes.
Do you guys still own that pair of cowboy boots? Both of you?
We owned them for years. I don't know where they
I don't know
went.
where
Then we went traveling for almost 10 years, and so many things went through storage, and But we do have cowboy boots still. I think we did get those ones like resold. I'm sure
we did like quite 3 or 4 times.
We met in 1991, so that was 30 years ago.
I mean, I don't think I would still have a cowboy boot.
We should track them down though.
Yeah.
go to Vancouver. I'm sure if we did anything, we sold them in Vancouver.
Probably,
or left them in Vancouver.
Yeah, when you moved back to Ontario. Well, you talked a bit about it, that you both had interests in music. Was there a particular moment in your childhood, or why did you become like a little bit why was music so important for you guys?
For me, I think there's always music around. I remember my mom and dad always playing music in the house. And I remember my dad had a reel-to-reel. I don't know if you know what a reel-to-reel is, but it was
state-of-the-art for the time.
State-of-the-art back then, but reel-to-reel. So there was constantly party mixes playing. And, and my mom and dad also had a huge record collection. So I was really introduced to music when I was quite young and really fell in love with like Beatles, Rolling Stones, stuff that they were listening to. So that sort of became my sort of motivation. And I really loved the drums just because probably I was a noisy kid and I loved to make the most noise possible. So I was really excited when my parents bought me my first drum kit, and they encouraged my music as well. So
nice. Very nice.
Christian parents, because his whole drum kits were set up in the garage, and you just sort of the whole community had heard Dave.
A lot of patience,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's either a hockey puck in the garage or like I guess tennis ball, since you don't want to destroy everything, or garage like a band set. That's no problem with that. What about you, Deb? Did you do any music back then?
Yeah, actually, when I was growing up, I was a competitive figure skater, and I remember when I quit skating. I was about 16 or 17 years old, and I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life now? Because I was very focused. Okay. And I saw auditions for Canada's Wonderland. It's this amusement park out in Toronto. Yeah. It's like the biggest amusement park in Canada. And I was like, hey, I did a lot of dancing when I was figure skating, so I'm going to go audition. And weirdly enough, I auditioned and got a part like that summer. And everybody working at Canada's Wonderland was going to Sheridan College for music theater. And then most people that went to Sheridan College were in Cats or Phantom or Les Mis at the time. And I was like, I've got to do this with my life. So I never looked back and went into music theater. And a couple of years later, I was at Sheridan studying music theater. And I was like, I'm going to be a Broadway star. And obviously that didn't happen.
Well, to your defense, Broadway, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a very demanding lifestyle, not just personally, but on your body, your relationships, and it
really is. But you know what? I have friends that have done really well in music theater, and I live vicarious through them. Okay. They've been in Rent and Les Mis and all kinds of stuff. So it's been great to see that. But I've really loved my own journey and travel. That's for sure.
Cool.
I'd like to be with Dave. I would hate to be going on the road without you.
Right. Well, a quick follow-up question to both of you. Dave, who's your favorite drummer?
My favorite drummer is Neil Peart. It seems like a generic answer, what everybody does. But he was a huge inspiration growing up. And, of course, he's Canadian. I'm also a huge fan of Lars Ulrich because
Lars Ulrich.
I'm a big Metallica fan. So, those two. It's kind of hard to say which one, but I would say Neil Peart probably because, from the very beginning, he's been like my favorite drummer. So before Lars was even around.
Nice. And Deb, what about you? Favorite figure skater?
Oh, favorite figure skater? Ooh, that's a good one. You know what? Oh, I was a real big fan at the time of Katarina Witt.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Way back.
Yeah.
So, that's who...
Going into the archives.
Yeah.
Going into the archives. I mean, I would have said Elvis Stoico. I remember watching him when I was very, very young.
All the Canadian guys were incredible. So I'm just kind of going by the women that I watched. And it's funny because we just rewatched Ronin with Robert De Niro.
Nice.
And Katarina Witt was on that. And it reminded me of her. Just like, she must be a real figure skater. I'm like, real figure skater. Yeah.
You don't know who she is?
Oh, that's cool. That's very, very cool. A little bit, Deb, just a really quick little thing, but why were you, did theater, was it something that, inspired you during college or during high school? Did you use acting, or what was it? It that made you decide that?
Getting the job out of nowhere for Canada's Wonderland and meeting everyone. And I was
that's what you're
in
saying.
a small town called Otterville. And at 17 years old, I'm out in Toronto with all these cool people doing music theater. And I was just in awe of all of them. And I was like, I have to figure out how to do this with my life. But then I was just really just totally going by people inspiring me. I was like, where'd you go to school? Okay, I got to do that. What are you doing? I got to do that. So that's how it started. And I just got lucky and kept working in that for a long time. And when Dave and I moved out west, it was really to go and pursue music. And you want to be in you were in a band, and I wanted to pursue music theater.
Well, that leads.
With them leaving to Toronto, because Toronto was the music theater capital, and I went out there. Instead.
Yeah, I could definitely see it as it is a theater capital of Canada as well, for sure. And then, what was just leading up to what you were talking about? What was the music scene like in Vancouver at that time when you guys moved there?
It was amazing. I mean, it was the cuff of grunge. It was 1993 when we moved to Vancouver. So we were deep into Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Nirvana, all that kind of stuff. So we shopped at the Army Navy store, wore cut-off shirts and army boots. It was I
look at
super long hair like down to here. It was very much. It was a very cool scene though, it was, and everybody was into music. It seemed like everybody was doing something with music. It was very cool.
I do laugh when I look at photo albums because we didn't know we were in the middle of the grunge scene, but I look at us and I was like, we were completely grunge just because that's what we could afford to buy. We couldn't afford the Doc Martens. We wore Army boots. We were like with the cheap cut off shirts because that's what we could buy at Army Navy. It was a really fun time. We didn't even know it, but we just had the best time.
Yeah, it didn't have two sticks to rub together, but
in Gastown and the Gasworks. And,
nice. So Gastown was a little bit more grungy back then.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of parts of Vancouver were a lot more grungy back then.
Okay.
I remember walking along these tastings and you see people on a cruise getting off the boat and stumbling out of Gastown and just be going, "Where am I?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're on the wrong side of the
wrong block. You need to go walk that way."
Wow, cool, very cool. And were there any memorable music gigs that come to mind right now? Thinking about that time.
Yeah, well, there were so many.
There were so many, but we went
to a lot of festivals at the time. That was the real big, things like festivals were going crazy at that time. So
it was a lot of growth, yeah. And did you ever go to Seattle, down to the border, just
not to see any music?
No.
Vancouver was so good at the time.
And we were in our own little world there. You know, we weren't. It's funny because. For two people who have become so worldly now, we were not that way in the beginning. We were very much in our own little.
We barely left downtown Vancouver.
No, exactly.
I remember going camping once with friends out to an old logging road, and I'm going, "Where the heck are they taking us?" Yeah. And it's funny because I was like, "This is crazy. I just want to go back home." And little did I know I'd start doing that with my life right now.
Oh my god! It's really funny to hear that in contrast to what we're going to be talking about later. I know that you also both did a lot of different jobs, and also I think a little bit of acting, both in Vancouver and Toronto. Could you tell us a little bit more about the experience, about working at that time, and what did you take out of all that?
Well, in Vancouver, we went down to pursue music. And, as musicians, you naturally end up just waitressing and waitering. So I was working at the Cactus Club Cafe, and you were working at Fog and Suds at the time. And we got into the film industry out there. The film, Dave became, he was a rigging gaffer in Toronto, and I became a makeup artist. And the way we got into it in Vancouver was Dave was working with a guy at Fog and Suds. I don't even know if that's still open, but it's on Robson Street. And a guy came to work, and he's like, "Oh my God, you got to start working in the film industry because they're just hiring anybody." And we're like, "What?"
What, you don't need any experience and they'll pay you how much? All right, sign me up.
Yeah. So we started working we just said we're going to work in the film industry. And I actually was singing at the time. I was in Japan. I got a gig in Japan for a couple months.
Wow.
And I came back from singing and I was like, "Dave, we're quitting our jobs and we're going to get in the film industry." It was Derek that gave me the advice.
I'm like, okay.
And Dave's like, okay, because, it was the 90s and we didn't care. And we went around to all the studios. It was really a hot time in Vancouver. And I wrote a comic strip for both of us, Dave on blue paper and Deb on pink paper, on why we'd be great production assistants. And we brought that around for a couple of weeks, just dropping off at Canal Studios and all these different studios. And I got a call for Jumanji, the movie with Rob.
What? That's
and
cool.
The guy that
he really loved your resume.
He liked my resume. He said that was such a unique resume. He said, I have a stack of resumes this big. I just hired all the people that gave me the unique resumes. Like one guy brought a bottle of wine with all of his traits on the label, you know, instead of the nose and everything, he just his traits. And I liked your super PA because I'm like doing super PA.
It was more about getting hired on personality than on experience, because the film industry was so young in Vancouver then. So
and you got a job.
Yeah, I got lucky. I got on a job. I got on a student film with a guy. And actually, the guy who was the director of photography has now gone on to Game of Thrones. He's done. He's quite a well-known cinematographer.
And Molly Parker
from Canada.
was the star of it.
Yeah,
but she's gone on to. Oh, she has a series out now, but she's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she's been in a lot of movies.
Then, and I worked with a guy, and he took me under his wing, and basically, you know, I worked with him for the rest of the time that we were in Vancouver.
He was a PA for a day. I was a PA for a year and a half, which is the worst, the lowest of the total pole. Dave was for a day in there, and then on that one show, they were like, does anyone have any grip experience? And he said, I do.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, come on back on Monday, and you're our
yeah.
You went and got the grip book to learn about what it's like to be a grip, because there wasn't the internet like that then. And then that's how we did.
I'm very lucky, yes.
Awesome. Well, I also know that's cool that, you know, the movie set does bring out these like sort of environments, but it's also a lot of hours of work.
Oh yeah.
How are you coping with all that? What was your way to rest, and did you still play gigs, or what was the avenue for which you could take out that energy and be, you feel good about yourselves?
Well, that was sort of actually the beginning of the end of the music career, in the sense that, as I got more and more movies and we were both working on different shows, like the band, I had to make a decision. We both had to make a decision. Are we going to go into the film business, or are we going to try and stick it out more for music? But we were having such a great time in the film industry and making obviously a lot more money than we were
as musicians,
gigs, you know. So we went into that, but it was hard. I mean, we worked insane hours, absolutely insane, 18 hours a day, and when you're on a movie, you take anything you possibly can to get out there and work. So the time that we sort of spent together before we moved back to Ontario was limited, in the sense that we were just constantly working. So
and that's really how we got into travel, because we found that we were working nonstop in the film industry for about 10 years, and we lived completely separate lives. Like, he had his friends, I had my friends, we were working different hours, different jobs, and we realized that we were not really in much of a marriage anymore. We were just kind of roommates that saw each other in passing. And it really was, we didn't do anything else. It was all consuming. We worked, and when you're working on things like Jumanji or the X-Files or anything like that, you're working Saturday mornings, Monday, you start on a Monday and you're working till Friday night, but you're not finishing till 6 a.m. on Saturday, and then you sleep your weekend away. And it was actually in 2000 that I was working on a TV series, Wind at My Back, it was called, this TV series that was on in Canada. And I said, Dave and I are going to take our first vacation that we've taken in forever. And I said, we're just going to go to Mexico, and I want to do a nice all-inclusive. Does anyone know a good all-inclusive? And it was 21 years ago now, my friend Lana, she's like, you can't go to Mexico, you have to go to Thailand. And I was like, Thailand? I don't want to go to Thailand. She's like, no, you got to go to Thailand. And I was like, whatever.
And I definitely didn't want to go to Thailand. I was working like crazy, and all I wanted to do was go sit in an all-inclusive and consume as many beers as possible.
And get sunburned.
And get sunburned. It wasn't about going. I was not interested in learning about a culture or going to a place where I didn't speak the language. It was just about going someplace to relax. But
Lana brought her photo album. She was adamant that I had to go. And the next day, she was another makeup artist on the show. She brought her photo album from her travels in Thailand.
Okay.
And like was showing me it, and I was like, oh my god, she went rock climbing, she went kayaking. There was all the watts and pagodas, and I was like, this is like unlike anything I've ever seen. So I took the photo albums home and I told Dave, we're going to Thailand. And he's like, I don't want to go to Thailand. And then I showed you all the photo albums. And by the end of that, you were like...
Yeah, then I was, well, after looking at the photos and stuff like that and just chatting it out, we were like, yeah, okay, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So we went to Thailand. We booked 5 weeks, which at the time was just shocking for us to take 5 weeks off.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and it completely changed our life. And that's when we got the travel bug.
And this was, I think, 2000, right? Correct?
Yeah, it was 2000, 21 years ago, yeah.
And so after this trip, then I think you just mentioned you hit the travel bug, and this is where now suddenly you were thinking, okay, well, we're working crazy hours here, and we really liked our trip to Thailand. How do we continue to make this work? And I think this is where I think you sort of try to do like 6 months working intensively, and then maybe something else. Yes, was that what happened?
That's pretty much what happened. We came back from that trip in Thailand. Like, we learned to rock climb when we were in Thailand. We did some sea kayaking. We were like, we have to change our life. Like, we have been in a fog for 10 years, just working to live, not living at all. Or, just, living to work, really.
Right. So we ended up coming back. We moved up north, bought a house up north. Yeah. And basically just threw ourselves into doing as many adventures as possible. So it's kind of funny. We said, okay, well, we can work 6 months of the year, and then the rest of the time we can either go travel or spend time together. Because we found we really loved, doing adventures together and hanging out together and doing all these things that push us out of our comfort zone. And that was sort of the thing that was missing out of our relationship before we went to Thailand.
So we started taking up all these hobbies in Ontario. We took scuba diving. We became rescue divers. We took up mountain biking. We got a pass at Collingwood to go skiing, like seasons pass. We were just always busy on the weekend rather than sitting around doing nothing and drinking on the weekends,
which was plan A in 2000 in Mexico. But I'm really happy. I'm really happy that you guys went to plan B because
it's been a lot more fun.
Yeah, and well, even talking about some of the adventures, the Tour d'Afrique. Could you share a bit about that?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So leading up to that, it was basically the story of the Tour d'Afrique is kind of interesting because it was really a huge pivotal time in our life. We were again really depressed. We were completely not really in sync.
We were like, what are we doing with our life?
Yeah.
We're like spending 6 months.
We got
working.
1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah, and then we're traveling, and it wasn't about like getting any bigger or better in our careers in the film industry, as other people were like dreaming of like the next movie. During the movie, we're like, where are we going to travel next? And then while we're traveling, we're like, we got to get home to save money so we can travel next. And we were like, our life was just going in circles.
Yeah, but we had gone down to Florida to visit her mom and dad, Deb's mom and dad. And on our way back, we were pretty depressed. We were like, what are we doing with our lives? We got home. It was New Year's Eve, and we turned on the television, and there was this show, our CBC documentary on a guy named Ray Zahab. And I don't know if you know who Ray Zahab is, but he's an ultra marathon runner. He completely changed his life. He was a chain smoker and, didn't want to do that. Now he's like the premier ultra marathon runner. And we were really inspired by this. And we were like, you know what? We need to do something to really change our lives. We need to turn our lives around. What are we going to do? We're going to do something, guaranteed. And I remember we cheers to it. We made a promise to each other. It was a New Year's Eve. Yeah, had a toast and said, by this time next year, we're going to change our lives. Yeah.
Wow.
And basically 2 weeks later, we saw an advertisement in a magazine for the Tour d'Afrique, which at the time was the world's longest cycling race from Cairo to Cape Town. And we're like, you know what? We're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. And 1 year from there, we'll be cycling in Africa.
As you can see, we just switched like on a dime. It'll be like, we're doing this, we're doing that. We even moved to Vancouver like that. They're like, we're moving to Vancouver.
It's crazy because you think about adventure travel, and when people get into it, they'll just go progressively, push their boundaries. But you're like, let's go all in and go push our limits to the craziest amount and just bike all the way from Cape Town to it's I mean,
crazy.
What was the planning like?
Yeah, it was really nuts because I'm always this person where it's like, you got to put it out there, you got to say it so you can't go back. So when we decided on it 2 weeks after making that toast, we had never done long distance cycling. We didn't really know. We were both established in our jobs. And we were like, well, we got to tell everyone we're leaving. So I was working at YTV at the time, which is a
I used to watch that. Yeah.
Sugar and Carlos, I was working on it with them. And I made and I said, this time next year, I'm not going to be working anymore because I'm going to go become an adventure traveler, And Dave did the same thing. He was working with the same crew on feature films. And you did the same thing.
Did the same thing, told everybody, and everybody laughed at us.
Yep. And nobody thought we would do it. And then we spent the next year learning how to cycle long distance. We had to take a bike course, how to do a bike mechanics course with our friend Nani, who we still keep in touch with. And we were
so not prepared.
Oh my gosh, we went to just take spin classes, but we were still juggling work. So we were always like, okay, well, we went to RPM downtown Toronto doing spin classes at 5 a.m, but had to relax for a little while because we were tired. And then
we had a few freakouts, wondering what the hell we decided to do and how we've ruined our lives. And now we have to go on this trip to Africa about halfway through. We had a few freakouts and breakdowns.
We had to put the second down payment down because it was $10,000 each to do this.
Wow.
We put down $10,000 in January to sign up. Then in June, we had to pay it off. And we're like, we've just spent all our savings. What are we doing with our life? We're leaving these jobs. And we were just freaking out.
But in the end, really, it's kind of funny when we got to what we decided to do is that we were going to use this as a springboard to start a TV show.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to do, right? We thought, okay, that's how we're going to change our life. We're going to we're going to make a TV show, and we'll be Canada's adventure couple, and we'll go and show people that you don't have to be, super fit, super rich, or super extreme to be an adventurer.
Because we were none of the above.
Because we were none of the above, exactly. So that's what we wanted to go out there and show people. We thought it'd be a great way to do a television series. Yeah. So we hired a publicist, which was insanely expensive, but well worth it because we got a lot of media coverage before we went, and we were writing about. Deb got a writing assignment for the Toronto Star.
Yeah, my very first writing assignment ever.
Nice.
Toronto Star. I always just say, just go for it, because Dave and I will just think big and go big. It's well, I got to pitch this to the Toronto Star. It's a great story. Yeah. You have any writing experience? I got a writing course.
Oh man, and it's not an easy thing. There is road biking long distance is extremely popular in Europe, and it's one thing to do it from one village to another in northern Italy where you can find materials, but if your bike breaks down in the middle of the desert in Sudan
you better know how to fix it.
You better know how to fix it, right? And also, just the dirt and the sand will clog your chain and your bike, and it's gonna need maintenance and stuff.
You know it. You do a lot of biking, clearly.
I think, for me, it was biking for 10 days in Burning Man, where I realized, this is very, very insane. But
you haven't cycled until you cycled on desert sand, right?
Yeah, it's right. That's right. And so, were there very, very difficult moments during that trip where you were like, what are we doing?
So many.
And
so
many.
Day one, we went. But I just was like, what did I sign myself up for? It was unbelievable.
Day one, and we still had 4 months to go.
Ignorance is bliss.
160K was the first day.
We had never even done 100K before in our training. We had never done 100K. We were like, we can do it. We can push through.
Wow.
That first day out of Cairo was 160 kilometers. And everyone says, oh, that's an easy one because it's all tailwind, it's flat, it's paved roads. It was not. We had headwind the whole time, and we bombed. Yeah. I remember I was all alone riding, and I rode into lunch, and I thought Dave was way ahead, and I see Dave sitting at lunch just in the corner, and he looks up at me and he just shakes his head. I just said this. And I'm like, what I don't know how we're going to finish this. So the two of us just got on the bike and just pedaled in.
Yeah.
And we were the very last people in to camp. Everyone was all set up. People are all looking chipper.
Refreshed. And I'm like, what the hell?
I just went in the tent and cried. And I was like, I am the worst cyclist ever.
Oh,
and this went on for a good 2 weeks because we really didn't talk to anyone because you just spent all your time cycling or getting ready. And we were like, we're the worst because we kept coming into the camp last all the time.
But what we didn't know is that because this was a race and expedition at the same time, right? And so it was an organized race, a stage race. Basically, people have been getting on the truck like at lunch
And taking
halfway through and taking the truck into camp. So
they were the smart ones.
So they were cheating in a way.
Well, you get a penalty.
Yeah, well, not cheating, but assistance, let's say.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I mean,
once I found that out, then I felt better. But like, I was really feeling bad about myself in the first couple of weeks because there were like the real elite racers that had trained for years at the front that were fun.
Yeah, but you know what? They also have that support staff. I mean, it costs a lot. Like, I can think the example I can think of is the Death Valley 100, where there's one guy who had a truck follow him, and you can't have any help that helps you like move the distance,
Right.
But you're in the Nevada desert, like, and it's 54 degrees Celsius. And so what he would do is in the truck, they had a bath filled with ice. And every like 10 miles, he would just take a break and just bathe his whole body. Because he was just dying of exhaustion. I mean, his his shoes were like melting, right? It's just another world.
They got to add that on the Tour d'Afrique.
But yeah, Dave, you mentioned this just before, but you had a sort of TV gig that was attached to it, but it I guess it didn't pan out. But something that did come out of it was your blog, the PlanetD. Can you tell us a little bit more about what happened with regards to that?
Yeah, so basically when we got back, we tried to sell the show. But at that time, there was a lot of people, a lot of celebrities basically trying to do the same thing. So we weren't really a proven entity or a proven name or anything like that. So it was very difficult for us to sell the show. So we weren't able to. But we had to start a blog for the Tour d'Afrique to keep friends and family updated with what was going on. And what we found when we were there is that people were really interested in not only the articles Deb was writing for the Toronto Star, but all of our updates that were going on the blog. So we were like, wow, maybe there's something to this internet thing, and it might be the future. Maybe we should focus on that. Instead. So that's when the idea of the PlanetD was born. We used, actually in the beginning, we did use the same moniker of Canada's Adventure Couple. That's what it was in the very beginning. And again, we were going to go with the same theme of doing epic adventures, but we soon realized we set the bar pretty high by cycling Africa like for the first adventure. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do now? We might have got ourselves a little bit of a pickle. So maybe we should change it to something like adventure is for everyone.
Dave came up with that.
Yeah. But we did end up starting the TV show didn't work out, so we did end up starting the blog then. But we had to come back and work. Yeah, we had no money at the end when we came back from
no money,
Africa.
no prospects,
no place to live. So we were very fortunate in that Deb's mom and dad lent us their trailer, so we lived in a trailer park in Milton, just outside of Toronto, and drove in to work for a year. Before we started making up our plans of what we wanted to do with the blog. Yeah,
and we did make another solid goal. We said we're going to stay home for a year, save money, work hard, but we'll work at the blog at the same time and figure out what this blogging thing is. And it was another year later that we were back on the road and on our way to India to start the PlanetD.
I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. That's very I can tell that not just myself, but others out there really appreciate it because, you often hear that the image that they have of travel influencers is that, they're born in people throwing stuff at them and everything. But you guys, went pretty bottom and went crazy, then went pretty bottom again and went just, came out of the ashes like a bunch of phoenixes. And it's, something that, it's the whole picture. And people forget that there is a whole, process to this. And it's not just what they think. And I think that's great. And, it's truly inspiring. So thank you.
We had a lot of determination. We were convinced that we were going to be a success, and I think we were legends in our own mind already. So we
kept telling each other that you're amazing.
We were our biggest fans, and so that really kept us motivated and going. Yeah. So we did set the plan to travel for 5 years full time and see if we can make a business out of the blog. Yeah. So
and we had it in our mind, people weren't doing. Obviously, it's become a big thing now, but at the time, we had only film and TV to draw from. So in our travels, we would always see like Leonardo DiCaprio showing off a watch, or George Clooney with his coffee and stuff like that. And we were like, we got to become like spokespeople for travel, like these celebrities do, you know. And that was our mind, what we were going to do. We're like, we'll become spokespeople for travel brands. And weirdly enough, a couple years into our business, it was 2 years. 2 years of traveling, American Express approached us and said, do you want to be American Express travel ambassadors? So it all, having that goal again, just
And it's interesting in that, you know, we are very much, when we look back at our story and what we've done, we do realize we're very much all in people, because even we were, when we left for those 5 years, we sold everything we owned. We sold our house, sold everything we owned, and just basically all of our possessions, and went with what we had on our back and our backpacks. And that was it. You know, it's like, we're going for this full time, all in, and we're going to see what happens. So we did have a plan. Like we had savings. We weren't touching other money that we had there, so we weren't frivolous with what we were doing. But we definitely put it all out there in order to give ourselves a chance to be a success.
Yeah. All right, there's a couple of trips I want to talk about before you move to like the last part of the show. But the first thing, could you share a bit about the Mongol rally that you guys did, the trip from England all the way to Mongolia?
Yeah, that was the next big epic trip after the Tour d'Afrique. Well, it was about 2 or 3 years later. And Dave and I were actually in New York at a conference, and we were talking to our friend Sherry out of Oxworld, and we were saying, we got to do something epic. We're thinking about driving across Mongolia. And Sherry's like, oh, you can't do that. You got to do this thing called the Mongol Rally. We're like, what's that? And she told us all about it, how you have to drive an inappropriate car from England to Mongolia. And being the people we all are, luckily Sherry's another nut like us, after the conversation, we filmed it and put it up on social media and said, this time next year, we're going to do the Mongol Rally. It's going to be the Oxworld.
We were committed.
Team.
Committed. Yeah, you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And once again, like, ignorance is bliss, because I don't even know if I could do it now. I don't even know if I could do all that work.
And again, it was a whole year of planning and trying to, a new realm of trying to get sponsorship for stuff like that, and planning out our group. Get a car. Oh, there's so many logistics involved. That it was definitely a big challenge, but as an adventure, it was just absolutely incredible. I mean, driving across these countries, especially when you get into places like Kazakhstan and Mongolia and that part of Siberia of Russia, you know, like where a lot of people don't ever get to go. So it was. I'll never forget the experiences that we've had, and probably the best ones of meeting locals that I ever have had. Just random people on the road.
Yeah, they were pristine experiences. I can imagine. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool.
We had a lot of breakdowns, and you get people coming up on their horseback, because we're literally in Kazakhstan and horse country and Mongolia. And them like trying to help us, but having no clue what to do. So we have a lot of fun pictures of people just looking at us and looking at our car, and us scratching our heads. How do we get out of this? Using a lot of chicken wire to put things together.
Well, you know, we talked about the two, like where you push the boundaries to just absolutely insane levels, but one that is more feasible for Canadians, and something that I think it's a great place that unfortunately doesn't get a lot of traction or information, but you guys have shared a lot about it, and I want to talk about it. But is Puckasaw on Lake Superior, and you guys did the 120K trail trip. First off, like my first question is, what was the experience like?
It was hard.
I'm doing that this summer, so be gentle with me, but please. So
great coastal hikes in Canada, and it is well known. Like everybody talks about, all of the the West Coast Trail, and they talk about the Fundy footpath, but this is one of the really great ones that's way up, and it's so wild up there in northern Lake Superior. Yeah. My favorite story about this all the time is that, like, I've been on a kayaking trip with someone who is very, very fit, and she had read our blog, like it was a local like a person I hadn't met, and she said, I wasn't going to do the Puckasaw, but then I saw you guys did it, and because I had heard it was too hard, but if you could do it, I was like, I think I can do it too.
That's so cool.
I find that it is the way it was explained to us is that if you have nice weather,
Yeah.
It's one of the most incredible hikes that you'll ever do. If you have bad weather, it's absolute agony. Because if it rains a lot, the rocks become like ice, and you can't move very fast.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate. We had nice weather. We had bad weather going out.
You have to take a boat out to have.
Yeah, you took the ferry to get there. Yeah, and then I imagine because of the bad weather, they wouldn't even go. Is that correct?
Well, we had bad weather and we went, and it was scary.
Oh wow!
Like, you and I have been
it was wavy, right?
Yeah, it was really wavy. It was great.
The park ranger that was with us, she was getting sick. It was that bad, and we were like, "Oh my goodness, what are we doing?" Like it was.
Yay, day one.
As usual, what have we got ourselves into? But I'll never forget. We went with Naturally Superior Adventures, and they were fantastic. And they had seen what we look like. And I remember him offering. He's like, "I don't know. Maybe we'll just pick you up halfway." Like he did not.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you guys didn't stop at Oiseau Bay. You did the whole thing. You went all the way to the. Yeah, you did the whole thing.
Expects us to make it. We just.
But that landscape up there is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
We've been to 115 countries, and by far this is one of my favorite hikes that I've done.
Yeah.
I love doing multi-day hikes like that. And just the way that it's set up. And the different landscapes that you go through, you don't expect that on the North Shore of Lake Superior or in Ontario for that reason, or even.
Hard though, you have to carry everything. This is why it's so different, difficult compared to other hikes. We had everything on our backs, all our food for the 7 days, everything.
Yeah, because there's no food drops or anything. So
no, there's none of that. Yeah.
So you carry everything.
So it got easier as we went along, but it was tough. And I was going to say something that I remember. It was really wild because we were on the trail and we came face to face with a moose. And that was crazy. We're walking the trail, and then a moose was just coming running down the trail. We have not had a wild experience like that.
Yeah.
And they're dangerous. So we got in behind the bushes, and it just froze and looked at us. And then we went in behind the bushes, and then she went running by, and then her cub went running by. And then as we kept walking further, we saw bear prints. So we were like, I think that a moose got scared by a bear.
Yeah.
It was crazy wild.
Man.
Don't do this one. I don't think you should do it alone. We had a guide with us.
I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with friends, luckily.
Yeah,
so
you want to have
we'll be
safety
for
in numbers.
But it's a great bragging rights. I mean, it is that sense of accomplishment when you get to the end and you sign the book is just it's sort of what you do it for. In my opinion, it's. When I get to the end and I talk about it, I always think about a lot of our stuff as type 2 fun, where, it's kind of a bit of a difficult, or it can be a misery to go through. But in the end, you talk about it, you reflect it. It's such an amazing experience. I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
And, I think the Puckasaw fits in there with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned it just a little bit before. So, I did want to talk about it a bit about it. Because what I like the most about the PlanetD and what you guys do and how inspiring you are is that, and you guys found that through the years, is that adventure travel can be very feasible and it can be for everyone. You don't have to push yourself to do 14,000 kilometers from England to Mongolia, but you can also push yourself to do a 3-day journey and have that sense of accomplishment. So my question for you guys is, how did you come about that, and why do you think that particular focus is good for travel?
Well, I think for us, when we first started, there wasn't a role model for us. We were really into watching adventure travel. I remember watching the,
Eco
Challenge, and we were watching. We went to go see the Everest at IMAX and everything, and everybody was just these incredible athletes that had years of experience, and we were like, I can't ever do that. I'll never be that. And I was, we just felt bad about ourselves, honestly. And we were like, why can't? So we just started.
It was born out of pity, actually.
We're just we're so not worthy. We started thinking, why can't we be those weekend warrior types?
Yeah.
So as we did more things, we took orienteering classes, we just started doing everything you could possibly do to become adventurers, and we kept building on it. And that's how we started doing things with the PlanetD, because when we climbed to the top of Mount Kinabalu in Borneo for the first time. We were like, I'd love to share this with people and show what an inspiring, exciting moment this is. And that's what we started with our blog. We just wanted to show people that anyone can do it. It doesn't have to be, you know, at Dave Brashears or anyone like that. Or,
And we wanted to show that, you know what, adventure is different for everybody. And I think
that's true.
That's something that adventure travel, the definition of adventure travel has changed over the years in that, you know, what is an adventure for one person can be completely different for somebody else. It could be someone's idea of adventure could be going to a market in Marrakesh. You know, another person's adventure is climbing to Mount Everest. You know, there's different levels of it. And we really wanted to showcase that on our blog because, you know, we're everyday people as well. You know, we're not Uber anything. So, you know, we just go out there, put our minds to it and do what's fun and have fun doing it and our biggest advice is take baby steps. You know, you don't have to go out there and lay it all out like we did for a couple of adventures unless you're that kind of personality. But if you're not, you can just take baby steps and I always say, try and do something to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. Doesn't have to be all the way, but a little bit. And you'll find you'll come back more enriched and learn a little bit more about yourself.
That's really good sound advice. That's great. And it also, even earlier during the episode when you shared about we got, you know, in Cape Town and we were not ready. Like it's also, you know, I think a lot of people when they've gone traveling sometimes had that feeling, and it's nice to know that it's shared by, you know, the people that push their boundaries the most as well. And I think that was really cool sound advice.
And it's funny just one of the things I did say from a psychological standpoint, I did realize that, you know, like after we did the Tour d'Afrique, and we were actually just talking about it recently, how you know, the mind can do incredible things, and it can really take over and allow you to overcome a lot of things when your body is somewhat saying no. But if you have that determination and that will to move on, you can push through like we did with Africa, because there were a lot of days where we didn't think we were going to make it, and we did. And, you know, there's sort of that mental fortitude is in everybody. It just needs to be unlocked, I think.
And that's really great advice. And thank you for sharing that. I had another question on the subject of advice. What advice could you give for somebody who's been thinking about doing a travel blog and has been hesitant?
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe Deb could do this one.
Well, I think I would get into it for the right reasons. What you were saying, where a lot of influencers are like, "Oh, I'm just so bored," or this and that. You know, there's going to be ups and downs, and you know, a lot of my friends have gone through the biggest down this past year, but everyone's persevered because they love it. And they got into it for the right reasons, for the love of travel and wanting to share that inspiration. Like, I want to share the ups and downs and the good and the bad and let people know how they can do it as well. So find the reason you want to start it, first of all, and find what you're good at. Like, we went right into writing and photography because Dave comes from the film background doing lighting and TV and movies. And, I had always written a lot. I used to always just update in our travels because we traveled for 7 years before we started the blog. And I did it back in the day when I sent email blasts without even knowing I was doing like to all my friends and family. And people were like, I'm so looking forward to your emails. So I loved writing. Nice. Like, I just really loved sharing the experience. And we had the reason. We wanted to inspire people to change their lives because we were always like, before we got into this, we were like, oh, only really great things happen to people who are born into it or people who get lucky. And then we learned from this that you can make your own, you know, your own magic happen. And we want to make sure that other people know that, because we've got, as far as we know, the one life that we can live here. So we want people to get inspired to live their best life too. So it's the reasoning. Get the reasoning of sharing good information with people. My long-winded answer.
Well, guys, like, I think, you know, suffice to say, I think you're truly a really good source of inspiration for a lot of us. I really love your energy from the time we spoke before to today. I think it's truly very inspiring for just a lot of people out there that, you know, you can do it, you can have a positive attitude, and it can be feasible, and you can achieve something so unique and that you'll always remember for the rest of your life. And, you know, thank you for, you know, showing that to me and to so many other people.
Thanks so much for having us on. I love talking with you. I can't wait to hear how
great questions.
I can't.
Yeah, it's not even a question. But I will finish with one last one before we wrap this up. But if people want to get in touch with you to discuss either partnerships or if they're having a source of ideas and they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way they could reach you?
They can go to our contact page on our website at theplanetd.com or theplanetd. And we are theplanetd on every social media channel. So you can drop us a line on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And we're always happy to offer up advice. And we love to hear your stories as well. So yeah, don't be afraid to drop us a line.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. And thank you so much for sharing today, guys. And thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Thanks
for having us, Philippe.
All right. Bye-bye.